Most people who are looking at me tonight, I would venture to say that you are a poor communicator. You'll probably say, Coach, no, I'm not. I'm a great communicator. I would venture to say you're a poor communicator. And every time I get couples in front of me or singles, when I do the litmus test of communication, then they say, oh, shit, I'm not as great a communicator as I thought. Let me ask you one question. All right, here we go. Any of you, how many of you, this is rhetorical because I know I can't see you, because if you jump on the call, we can talk about it. How many of you have wanted to say something to your partner, but you withheld it because you weren't sure what they were going to say, or you weren't sure that they weren't going to get mad, they weren't going to accept it, they weren't going to do whatever, and you held it in? I imagine that's 90% of you. All right? Then you're a poor communicator. Because listen, because lack of communication always leads to miscommunication. I'll say it again. Lack of communication always leads to miscommunication, because what you're doing is when you suppress your communication, if there is something that you want to say, if there is something that you want to convey, communicate, and then you don't say it, what you've done is you've disconnected from the communication process. As soon as you disconnect from the communication process, the communication is flawed. All right. And now the communication, you're leaving it up to the other person to determine what you're meaning or what you're thinking. And then what happens when they don't figure it out? What do? You punish them emotionally because they didn't know what you were thinking. Y'all, and the truth is, 90% of us are poor communicators. I can give you two more, but that one litmus test right there, most of you don't do that. Most of you withhold information. So that tells me that you're not a good communicator. And y'all, and so what happens is, if your tongue, if you ask 100 people, what's the most important thing in relationship? They're going to say two things: trust, communication. I mean, they'll say other things, but I've always heard those two at the top. But when I hear communication, I always ask the question, are you a good communicator? They say yes, but when I go through the test and break down communication, then I find out that they're not a good communicator. Most of us have never been equipped. We've never been taught how to communicate. And so what it is, and I'll give you a prime example. So a lot of men, I did a video about this. A lot of men have been conditioned not to communicate. Because when we were young, you know, what did they tell us? Suck it up, keep it in. They say, don't show your emotions. They say, and what happens is now you have a nation of men who don't express their emotions, because because if you say your feelings, if you say how you're feeling, oh, you a little bitch. Oh, don't be a little punk. Don't do this and don't do that. And so now we carry that with us till we're 40, 50-year-old men. And now we suppress how we feel until it comes out. It manifests itself into anger, explosion, alcoholism, drugism. And so now you don't understand. I did a video today. Every seed planted grows into something. When they planted the seed of suppressing our emotions as a young boy, all right, the seed that grows into is a man who's ill-equipped to communicate to a partner about his emotions, because he's afraid that he will be perceived as weak, perceived as not masculine, and all these things. And so there be it unto us. We don't want to be perceived that way from the women we love. So I just say, and when my wife asked me what was wrong, now I try not to do this. What's wrong? I'm like, nothing. And I know I'm being chewed up inside about whatever it is. And so now when she asks me, I say, I'm going to tell you if you give me a minute to process this. Give me a minute to process, I'm going to tell you. And when I tell her how I feel, it might not even be pertaining to her. It might be something I'm going on in business, something I've got going on with whatever, my family, whatever, my father, mother, whatever it was. But when I tell her, I feel so relieved, so unburdened. But it wasn't. It was me getting over the hump. It was me getting over the hurdle or the challenge of all of the stigma that's associated with sharing my emotions. And so what has happened is, and now then you have women who has a man who doesn't communicate, and then you get mad, and so you tell him everything that he's not. Listen to me carefully. You tell him not everything that he is. You tell him everything that he's not. You're not a great communicator. You don't do this. You don't do that. And then that man internalizes what he's not. Y'all, and then he grows to resent you for saying that. Now, you'll never say it, but it's growing. That seed of resentment is growing. Y'all be careful what you tell. Men, you do the same shit too. Be careful. Stop telling people what they're not. If they're not a great dishwasher, but he's a great trash remover, then say you're a great trash remover and we're going to work on the dishwashing. See, but I'm not going to say you're a terrible ass dishwasher without showing appreciation for something else. I'm not, y'all. We are off balance. And that's the problem.